Hi everyone, welcome back to Live and Wireless.
Finally, after years of waiting and a bunch of rumors, the Switch 2 has been launched. One thing I clearly remember from the day it was announced was wondering whether Nintendo would stick with the portable console or make the jump to a full home console. That was a real concern for me because I love handheld consoles. The original Switch is one of the most iconic systems for me, with literally hundreds of games ready to play on the go. I really wanted Nintendo to keep that spirit in the new console. But once it was revealed, of course, more questions came to mind. How's the battery life? What about the screen?
After more than 1 month with the Switch 2, I can honestly say all my fears have disappeared. And now I truly believe we might be looking at a strong contender for the best handheld console so far. I'm not talking about total sales. It'll be hard to beat the original Switch with its massive 150 million units sold. Plus, the higher price of the Switch 2, that might make it even tougher to catch up. But technically, it's a real handheld, no doubt. Sure, it's not as powerful as the ROG Ally or the Lenovo Legion Go, but it holds its own. It's a solid mid-range console, and the fact that it can run Cyberpunk 2077? Super impressive. But here's the real power of the Switch 2, the games. All developers will want their titles on Nintendo's new platform. What other system gives you Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, and also games like Cyberpunk, Elden Ring, Hogwarts Legacy, and everything else that's coming? I'm honestly really excited about the future of this console and all the hours I'll probably spend playing it. So, today I have 5 things I love about the Switch 2.
The screen. The new screen on the Switch 2 brings a pretty noticeable upgrade. The size has increased by 1.7 inches, now coming in at 7.9 inches. It also has a better resolution, Full HD 1920 by 1080, and now includes HDR, which means more vibrant colors and deeper contrast. Plus, with VRR, variable refresh rate, you get smoother animations and reduced screen tearing. All of that sounds great on paper, but what about the actual experience? Well, this is where it gets exciting. Playing on the Switch 2 is genuinely enjoyable. Mario Kart World is bursting with color and looks fantastic, smooth, vibrant, and running at 60 FPS most of the time. Even Cyberpunk looks awesome, with all those neon lights lighting up Night City. The 7.9-inch screen makes handheld mode more comfortable, and compared to other handhelds or even the original Switch, you can tell right away this is one of the best screens on a handheld console. Now, the response time? It feels just okay. Nothing to brag about, but also not something that gets in the way of gameplay. So, is it perfect? Not exactly. One issue is the glass on the screen. It reflects a lot of light. If you like playing outside or you've got a light source behind you, you'll often find yourself tilting the screen to get a clear view. Hopefully, in a future edition of the Switch 2, Nintendo addresses this and gives us an anti-reflective solution.
The second thing I really like about the Switch 2 is the battery life. It has a 5,220 mAh battery, and depending on the game you're playing, you can get anywhere from 2 to 6.5 hours of playtime, which is pretty good. The Switch 2 uses the NVIDIA Tegra 239 processor, which only consumes about 10 watts of power on average. That's much lower than the AMD Ryzen Z1 used in most handheld gaming PCs, which uses between 15 and 30 watts. So, in terms of energy use, the Switch 2 is much more efficient, and that helps it last longer than other handhelds. But what does that mean in real life? I tested it by playing Cyberpunk 2077 in quality mode with the brightness all the way up. After 2 hours of gameplay, the battery dropped to about 7%. Then I tried Mario Kart World for 2 hours, and I still had around 30% battery left. That's
actually impressive, especially for a handheld that runs games like Cyberpunk at a stable 30 FPS with no overheating and no fan noise. Compared to the ROG Ally, for example, you just can't get that kind of battery life in handheld mode. I personally love playing my Switch 2 in handheld mode, especially in parks or coffee shops, and that's why I appreciate this battery so much. I don't need to carry a bulky charger or extra batteries with me.
Retro compatibility. Number 3 on my list. One of the things I really love about the Switch 2 is that it lets you play games from the original Switch. And that's huge, because the original Switch has a library of over 12,000 games. Being able to carry that library over to the new console, that's fantastic. Even better, some of those games actually get upgrades. Better graphics, smoother performance, and higher resolutions. I'm not just talking about Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. There are several other titles that benefit too. For example, Super Mario Odyssey looks sharper with enhanced color and performance. Plus, it now runs in full HD in handheld mode. Mario 3D World doesn't just perform better, it even gets new features, like expanded multiplayer functionality. And Zelda Link's Awakening has much better textures and now runs at a steady 60 frames per second the whole time. On the original Switch, the frame rate used to drop when there were too many enemies on screen, but that's no longer an issue. And it doesn't stop there. The Nintendo Original Classics library is also available on the Switch 2, and now it even includes GameCube games, which is awesome because I can finally play one of my favorite titles, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, right on the go. In total, you can now play around 200 retro Nintendo games in portable mode on the Switch 2. And the best part? Most of these classics work perfectly with the new Joy-Con controllers. Some N64 games might feel a little odd with the controls, but honestly, it's not a deal breaker at all.
Number 4. The Joy-Cons. It's well known that the original Joy-Cons had issues, especially the dreaded drift problem. And to be honest, it might still be too early to say whether that issue is fully solved with the Switch 2. But for me, drift wasn't the only problem. The original Joy-Cons were also just too small to play comfortably for long periods. In fact, I switched to Hori Joy-Cons even before my original started drifting. Now with the Switch 2, Nintendo has increased the size of the Joy-Cons, and honestly, they feel way more ergonomic. I've played in handheld mode for hours, and while it's not perfect, it's a big improvement. The size feels just right. You can hold them comfortably without your fingers or wrists getting sore. Now, one thing to keep in mind, when you're playing games that don't rely heavily on the bumpers or triggers, like NES or SNES titles, the new Joy-Cons feel really ergonomic. But in modern games like Mario Kart World, you start to feel some fatigue a bit earlier. It's not terrible, but it's definitely not the same as using the Pro Controller. Playing something like Cyberpunk or any FPS for long sessions in handheld mode? Probably not the best idea. The precise movements needed in those games can make the Joy-Cons uncomfortable after a while. That said, for short gaming sessions, on a flight or during a road trip, you'll still get a decent experience in handheld mode for a couple of hours before your hands start to feel tired. Now about the new mouse feature in the Joy-Cons. It's actually pretty interesting from a technical perspective. When you activate it, the Switch 2 kind of turns into a desktop console, which personally isn't how I like to use the Switch. But I tested it out using Cyberpunk, and the Joy-Con mouse input felt really responsive. Honestly, it was comparable to using a mid-range PC mouse. That surprised me. However, the shape and size of the Joy-Con make it a little awkward to use like a real mouse. There's just no good place to rest your hand, and the Joy-Con is too narrow to support your grip for long sessions. To be honest, it feels more like a tech demo than something you'd want to use for everyday gameplay. It's a cool idea, and it works surprisingly well, but for now, it feels more like a bonus feature than a must-use option. Number 5. The form factor. The Switch 2 has a really nice balance between size and weight. Compared to most PC handhelds, it's definitely lighter, which makes it perfect for long gaming sessions in handheld mode, especially when you're lying down or playing on the go. Even with a larger screen and a bigger battery, the Switch 2 is still lighter than something like the ROG Ally, by about 30 grams. That might not sound like a lot on paper, but in your hands, the design makes it feel even lighter. It's that well balanced. In terms of dimensions, the Switch 2 is also thinner, coming in at just 13.9 millimeters. That makes it feel better than the original Switch, but honestly, it's still a bit narrow to be truly ergonomic. That said, a good protective case can make a big difference. It improves the grip and comfort without adding too much weight to the device. Now let's talk about the body of the console, and one of my favorite changes, the addition of 2 USB-C ports. To me, that's a really smart upgrade. One thing I really don't like in other handhelds, like the ROG Ally, is having the charging port at the top of the console. It can be super annoying when you're playing and charging at the same time. The cable just gets in the way. With the Switch 2, that second USB-C port lets you choose how to plug in the charger, depending on your position or setup. It gives you more flexibility, and that's always a win for handheld gaming. Overall, Nintendo really nailed it when it comes to the balance between performance and physical design. The Switch 2 feels modern, portable, and comfortable, a solid step up from the original. And that's it! The 5 things I love about the new Switch 2. I'm really excited to see what's coming next for this console. I seriously can't wait to play games like Star Wars Outlaws and Hogwarts Legacy, and I'm really hoping they'll be well optimized, just like Cyberpunk is right now on the Switch 2. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and let me know what you love most about the Switch 2. Thanks for watching. I had a lot of fun making this video, and I hope you had just as much fun watching it.